Let me share something most men are never taught, and even fewer are willing to face. Attraction isn't created by everything you put on display. It's shaped just as much by what you choose to hold back. Think about it for a moment. Why do some men say all the right things, do everything by the book, yet go unnoticed, while others put in minimal effort and still linger in her thoughts? It's not chance, it's not appearance, and it's definitely not about being the kindest man in the room. It comes down to awareness, an uncommon kind that most people mistake for mystery. Most men approach women seeking approval. They measure every word, adjust every action, constantly calibrating themselves based on her reactions. But the moment you operate like that, you've already given something up, your self-command, not control over her, but control over your own state. And once that's gone, everything about you becomes easy to read. And what's predictable quickly becomes forgettable. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were genuinely curious about a woman beyond her appearance? Not casually, but in a way that actually engaged her thinking. Most men never reach that point. They see beauty and stop there. Compliments about her looks, her smile, her presence, things she's heard countless times before. Here's the truth that changes everything. The moment you focus on what everyone else notices, you blend in. But when your attention goes to what others overlook, you immediately stand apart. There's a quiet shift that happens when you stop reacting to her appearance and begin responding to her perspective. Not with forced intelligence or rehearsed lines, but through real observation. You listen deeply, and then you offer something simple but unexpected. You see things differently, don't you? Then pause. Watch. Because in that moment, something changes. She's no longer just being admired, she's being understood. And most people go through life without ever truly feeling that. But this is where many men get it wrong. They think it's about the words themselves. It's not. It's about the presence behind them. Words without grounded energy carry no weight. You could say something brilliant, but if your energy is seeking validation, she will sense it immediately. And once she does, you stop being intriguing, you become just another voice. Understand this clearly. Attraction isn't built through constant reassurance. It grows through contrast, through moments that feel different from what she's used to. And it begins with a simple idea. Stop giving what's expected. If she's used to attention, don't rush to provide it. If she's accustomed to being pursued, don't follow that script. Not to manipulate, but to disrupt the pattern. Every woman operates within a familiar rhythm. Men approach, they compliment, they try to impress, and she responds accordingly. But when you step outside that rhythm, when your reactions don't match her expectations, you interrupt something deeper than behavior. You interrupt certainty. And where certainty ends, curiosity begins. Here's something subtle. A woman doesn't become deeply drawn to you because you're flawless. She becomes drawn because she can't fully figure you out. There's always something just beyond reach, something she can't quite predict. That's what keeps her engaged. But here's the key. You don't create intrigue by hiding everything. You create it through selective openness. You reveal a little, then step back. You engage, then return to your own space. Not completely, just enough. Enough to create room, because space is where emotion develops. If you're always present, always available, always responding, there's nothing left for her to feel. No anticipation, no tension, no curiosity, and without those, attraction fades. But when your presence naturally comes and goes, she begins to notice something, your absence. And what many fail to realize is this. Absence carries more emotional weight than presence. Presence is expected. Absence makes the mind work. She starts asking herself questions. Why am I thinking about him? What is it about him that feels different? And the answer is simple. You didn't try to impress. You didn't try to win. You stayed grounded. That's what most men miss. The goal isn't to make her like you. The goal is to make her feel something she can't easily define. And that doesn't come from effort. It comes from restraint. From knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. When to engage and when to pull back. From understanding that your value isn't in how much you give, but in how intentionally you give it. Because once she feels that, once she realizes your attention isn't automatic or guaranteed, something shifts. She leans in, not because you chased her, but because you didn't. And that's where something deeper begins. Not surface-level attraction, but something quieter, something that builds over time in her mind. There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, where everything starts to change. Not in what she says, but in how she experiences you. Most men miss it because they're too focused on outcomes, labels, or figuring out where they stand. But attraction doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself through shifts. The biggest shift happens when she stops simply reacting to you and starts thinking about you. That's when the dynamic changes. You're no longer just someone she interacts with. You become someone she tries to understand. And that's where emotional investment begins. Here's what most men overlook. A woman doesn't get attached because of what you give her. She becomes attached because of what she creates in her own mind about you. The meaning, the curiosity, the internal dialogue, that's what draws her in. And you influence that not by doing more, but by doing less with intention. If every interaction is predictable, if every message feels the same, if your energy never shifts, her mind has nothing to explore, no depth, no layers, no reason to stay engaged. But when your presence has variation, when sometimes you're calm and observant, and other times sharp, playful, unexpectedly bold, you create movement, and the mind is drawn to movement because it feels alive. Unresolved emotions don't disappear, they linger. That's why she replays conversations, not because you were perfect, but because something felt unfinished. And the mind is wired to return to what feels incomplete. But here's where many misunderstand. Unpredictability is not the same as inconsistency. Your core should remain steady. Your values, your tone, your sense of self, but your expression can vary. You don't respond the same way every time. You stay present, aware. Sometimes you let things pass. Sometimes you respond in ways she didn't expect. Sometimes you lead. Sometimes you allow silence to carry the moment. That balance creates depth, because now she can't place you in a box. You're not overly eager. You're not distant. You exist somewhere in between, something unfamiliar. And that uncertainty isn't confusion, it's curiosity. There's a difference. Confusion pushes people away. Curiosity draws them closer. And curiosity comes from controlled unpredictability, a man who knows exactly what he's doing, but doesn't reveal everything at once. At some point, she'll begin to test the dynamic, not consciously, but naturally. She may pull back, take longer to respond, shift her tone slightly, not because interest is gone, but because she's checking your stability. She's asking, without words, do you react? Do you chase? Do you lose your center? Most men fail here. They see the shift as a problem and try to fix it. They reach out more, explain more, try to restore things to how they were. But in doing so, they lose the very thing that created attraction, their composure. Attraction doesn't grow when you react emotionally. It grows when you remain steady, when your energy isn't dependent on her behavior, when you allow things to unfold without forcing them. That's when she notices you're different, not easily shaken, not easily influenced, and that creates respect. And without respect, attraction doesn't last. When respect is present, everything carries more weight. Your words matter more. Your silence matters more. Your presence becomes something she pays attention to. And gradually she begins to adjust, matching your pace, your energy, not because you asked, but because she feels it. That alignment isn't forced. It's earned through consistency in who you are and flexibility in how you show up. And at that point, the shift becomes undeniable. She's no longer just responding, she's investing, emotionally, mentally, even subconsciously. And the more she invests, the harder it becomes to detach. Because now it's not just about you, it's about everything she's built around you, her thoughts, her interpretations, the meaning she's created. And once that process begins, it doesn't fade quickly. It deepens, quietly, steadily, powerfully, until one day she realizes something she can't quite explain. You're no longer just someone she talks to. You're someone she thinks about, even in your absence. Eventually, it's no longer about what you do. It's about what you don't react to. Because by now you understand something most never do. Attraction isn't built on effort. It's built on emotional discipline. And this is where the final shift happens. Not in her, but in you. The moment you stop trying to control her feelings and start mastering your own, everything changes. You stop chasing outcomes. You stop overanalyzing. You stop needing reassurance. And in that space, you become rare, unshakable. Think about this. What happens when she pulls away and you remain calm? No overreaction, no double texting, no internal panic, just clarity and presence. At first, it confuses her, because she's used to emotional reactions, used to control through attention. But when that no longer works on you, her focus sharpens. She starts observing more closely. What's different about him? And the truth is, it's not what you're doing, it's what you're not doing. You're not seeking validation. You're not chasing certainty. You're not forcing connection. You allow it. And that changes everything, because your presence now feels grounded. And people are naturally drawn to what feels grounded, especially in a world filled with reactive, unstable interactions. Now let's go deeper. Silence. Most men fear it. They think it signals something is wrong, that they need to fill it, fix it, explain it. But silence isn't emptiness, it's space. And space is where emotion expands. When you stop filling every gap, you give her room to think, to feel, to wonder, to miss. And you cannot miss what is always available. You only miss what holds value. And value isn't constant, it's experienced in moments. So when your attention is present, it feels meaningful. When it's absent, it's noticed. And that contrast creates depth. This isn't about disappearing or acting cold. It's about not overextending your presence. You give, but you don't overwhelm. You engage, but you don't chase. You connect, but you don't cling. And in that balance, you create something rare, emotional tension, not stress or confusion, but a subtle pull, a feeling that something is there, but not fully within reach. And that feeling keeps her engaged. She replays moments, reconsiders conversations, feels your absence, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. But here's where many lose it. They get this far and then relax too much. They assume the connection is secure. So they become more available, more predictable, more exposed. And slowly, they lose what made them stand out, their center. Because attraction doesn't vanish instantly. It fades through overexposure, through predictability, through the loss of mystery. That's why the final principle is simple but difficult to live by. Remain consistent, even when things feel certain, not rigid, not distant, but grounded in self-control. You don't give more just because you can. You don't react more just because you feel comfortable. You stay aware, always, because awareness is what keeps everything balanced. And here's the deepest layer. It's not about making her obsessed. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need that. Because the moment you need obsession, you lose your power. But when you don't, when you're grounded in your own life, your purpose, your direction, that's when everything aligns. Now she's not your focus, she's part of your world. And people value what they step into more than what revolves around them. So she leans in, not because you pulled her, but because she feels your stability, your restraint, your presence, and that presence isn't loud. It doesn't try to impress. It doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, calm, controlled, unmoved. And that's what stays with her, not your words, not your actions, but how she felt around you, the ease, the authenticity, the absence of force, the way you didn't react when most would. And in a world full of noise, that kind of silence becomes unforgettable.